off when you find it. You take all these national, international, global tools, you localize it in your search, and then you post them. I'm going to pretend like I'm Phil Donahue here with a mic. I don't have a mic, but I'm just going to point to Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Kepler, and I have a 1-month-old blog called Crazy Blogspot, and I certainly know about the long tail because I've spent my entire professional career singing Serbian music, medieval music. When Google came along, we started getting a lot of jobs because when people, like say a Scottish person wants to marry an Irish person, they would put Scottish, Irish wedding in Google, and my band would come up first. And so being long tail and being in the web has been a wonderful thing. Well, just yesterday, I discovered Technorati tags. And just yesterday, was it you who wrote to me? Somebody at Greensboro wrote to me yesterday and said, I noticed that you've been writing about North Carolina issues, and just yesterday, a post that I put up about Duke Power squashing my attempt to put solar panels on my house got on your site, and that person said, there's a meeting tomorrow of bloggers. And so one day, I knew about Technorati tags for one day, and that all happened.
So using these global tools and applying them locally, looking for stuff. Rob wanted to say something.
I think sometimes the technology that we use to build these online communities is harder for geographically based blogs than it is for subject based. It's easy for us to go and search for certain key topics and find people from all around the world that care about similar issues. A lot of times locally it's very tough. I started an experiment called ourwords.net. We try to take local blogs and say that yes, this is in this community, this is in Chapel Hill, this is in Greensboro. So we look at some of the technology behind it, and it's difficult. We try to find ways to localize geographically without any type of specific marker. Blogs specifically label themselves as, I'm in Greensboro, I'm in Chapel Hill. It can be easier, but it's a technology issue.
And I didn't want to pop up, because every one of you who signed up on the wiki, I went to your weblogs, and you didn't give me a weblog or website. I found something about you through Google online. And what I noticed that among the bloggers is that very few of you have an about page. I shouldn't say very few. Many of you don't have an about page, which is one of those markers that helps a new reader to your site know what it is, who you are, where you come from, what your expertise might be, and it also then helps people find you through other searches.
So you localize yourself. You establish yourself locally. That helps build local blogs. I want to call on you, but I want to call for a second because we're all feeling so good. And in Greensboro, we had a blog conference, and that helped build the community, that helped create this Greensboro community. We're having one today, and that's all great. But here's Dave Beckwith, who writes the wonderful Anonymosis, God, that's hard to say. It's a dense, Joycean prose kind of. And so here's Dave. He's in Charlotte. And we all know what Charlotte thinks of Charlotte, right? They think right. They think of Charlotte. They really have not established a blog community, although they have several bloggers. So Dave's trying to drag them whining and crying into this sense of a local community. And how is that going? And why are you doing it? And is it going to work?
Oh, thank you, Ed. I've had. I've had 2 hours of sleep last night, so I sort of fall down. But no, Ed's right. Charlotte's full of itself, and but it's woefully behind the times. It seems to me, anyway, in the use of and the imbibition of words such as triangulation and long tail and stuff like that. But it seems to be anti-blogging in a certain sense. And the other day, I was reading the Charlotte Observer, which is the local paper, which is one Pulitzer Prize. But it was basically deriding bloggers as being people who feed kitties and things like that. And so never feed a cat. I mean, it's not proper. But so I wrote. I know the reporter, and so I wrote a sort of diatribe against the guy. And threatened his life, and so he's, that's why I can't sleep.
So the newspaper, Greensboro, we're really fortunate that our newspaper got it.
Right.
They're really really involved. So in Charlotte, you're trying to pull the newspaper along.
Right.
What about?
They leave the city in a certain way.
Right, well, so one way to build a local community is to get institutions, Jerry McCullough talking about wiring institutions. They kind of get the newspaper. People like Dave and Ruby, Rock and Ruby have not waited for newspapers. They have built their own organizations. Gentleman in the orange, and then over here, I'm not ignoring that side of the room, I'm just not seeing a lot of hands.
Hey, I'm Brian Risk. I write genfx.com. And just a quick thing about the About page. You have to think about search engines and how people are finding you. You know, if a friend wants to find about Brian Risk, they'll search in, Google on Brian Risk. So quick and dirty About page. Be really conscious about the title of if you're going to just like make a blog post and call it Brian Risk, North Carolina, Carborough, Chapel Hill. Just think about what people will be searching on when they're trying to find you when you write that one post.
Right. We had a hand here, and then I'm coming over here. I'm staying over here.
My name's Deborah Beller. I write the ridiculously named reason and radical.blogspot.com. But I actually wanted to talk about the Detroit News because I'm from Detroit originally. When you talk about newspapers and blogging, very few are getting into having their columnists do it. But the Detroit News, which is a very conservative newspaper, actually has people in the community blogging on their site. So they not only have columnists doing it, but they also have just people from the community representing diverse spectrums of political opinions blogging on the Detroit News site. I think it's a great model that other newspapers ought to think about doing, because one of the problems with old media that they're not getting about what's happening here is that it's not controlled by the editorial staff of the paper. It's controlled by all of us in this room, being able to be journalists in the broadest sense of the word.
You have the bestseller, which is the newspaper, the head of the long tail, and it's linking to and empowering the least sellers along the long tail. As I say, in Greensboro, we're very fortunate to have that in Detroit. It's happening in Lawrence, Kansas. It's happening where the institutions are saying, we want to be relevant in our community. We're going to involve the community in what we're doing. First hand up over here was right behind Dave. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Mark Kozak.
Oh, hey, Mark, I was going to call on you. And I just did.
Right, I am one of the co-founders of NCBlogs.com. And when Evan Zimmerman and I created that site last summer, it was in part because we were frustrated that there was no place that we could go and find out all the blogs in the Triangle or all the blogs in the Greensboro area or wherever. You sort of had to rely on maybe Ed has some local links, but you weren't sure if he was really picking them all up and so forth. The problem with NCBlogs.com is it's entirely up to individual bloggers to submit their sites to the site. So please do that.
Key point here is the use of RSS. If you need to have people come to you and say, I want to be on your aggregator or on your community site, then you're only going to have people who know to do it, know how to do it, remember to do it, and you're going to have a self-selecting limited community. If you can take the syndication software that Dave Weiner developed and others have pushed forward, Sam's been involved in it, then if you can take that aggregation and make it happen via the magic of technology, you will have a much bigger and much more frequently updated community. I promise to stay on this side. Was there Sid?
Big way, still play Raga. The biggest thing, whether you're trying to, no matter what kind of community you're trying to build, whether you're trying to peel off people from Google or other blogs, it's basically just to keep on keeping on. Most blogs die before they're 6 months old. Most blogs before they're 6 months old don't really have any kind of community because they're not been able to attract that much yet. The people that do are usually very, very lucky. The longer you stay around, the longer the long tail is actually going to send people to you. If you want to write a local blog and concentrate on that, eventually, you might have to do it for a really long time, but eventually you will attract a local audience of people who have run across you just by Google or God knows what. Anything else on top of that is basically what you're going to end up doing on your own. And I think that's a lot of what it comes down to.
And what's your community blog trying to do? I use this line every time I do anything like this. I steal it from David Weinberger, the great blogger and thinker. He riffs on Warhol and says, on the internet, everybody will be famous for 15 people. If you want to do that porn blog or whatever, then great, you'll have a huge readership. But if you're writing for your community and you're David Hoggard and you're writing about development issues in the ACOC historic neighborhood, that's probably not, mass audience stuff, even in Greensboro. But it's pretty damn interesting if you live in the ACOC Historic District or other districts that may have similar issues. So you get your blog, you maintain it, you find your audience, and you don't freak out that there are 500,000 people in Guilford County. I'm not necessarily trying to get all of them to read me, although they're welcome to. There was somebody in the middle. Yes, sir.
So you may have seen my handout. I actually went through what was able to lots of stuff. It's Derek Raymond at Live Journal uses Derek Raymond. I actually went through all the blogs that were mentioned on every segment. Found all the places where they were talking about, at least on the first blog, the most obvious. What people actually do is talk about major technical centers and commercial centers, New York, Washington, and then they talk about the other stuff. And there's a really big clump of what you talk about is North Carolina, because we haven't been in North Carolina. Also tried to use RSS, and I pulled out my correct tools and I checked, and something like 20 or 30 of those 82 posts didn't
Have RSS.
Maybe
Well, and of course, you got to educate people. Sam Ruby is on an email list. They're not all bloggers, but they're Triangle area tech people, and they have lunch once a month. I'm coming, I swear, one day. I'm on the wiki, but I never make it. So you get people together in the real world. The woman back there mentioned that her goal was to do that. You get people, and they do things like talk, right? They get together and they say, what is this RSS thing? I'm embarrassed to ask in a large group because everybody seems to know, but I promise you not everybody does. You have conversations, and why are you building a community? What's the point? Is it just to get readers? Or is it, when the Dean campaign was having all these meetups, they really didn't care about web readership in terms of eyeballs just for eyeballs' sake. They wanted you to go do something in the real world. They wanted you to go vote. That didn't work out so well. But the community building, is it its own end? Are you trying to do something? Rudy, you've got a community site. It's named the community. It's got geography, and it's politically oriented. Hey, did you see that article where I quoted you in Personal Democracy Journal?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
And so I know the answer to this question because I emailed with Ruby and posted. But tell us a little bit about what you've actually accomplished. Right? Is there anything that your community site on Chapel Hill Politics has actually done besides get people to come online and flame each other?
Good question. First, since we're talking about aggregators, I'll mention we have a local aggregator on orangepolitics.org. If you go there right now, there's a little kind of welcome box at the top, and one of the links there is to the aggregator. And if you're in Orange County, which means Chapel Hill, Conroe, Hillsborough, McCounty, and a cabin, please add yourself to the blog roll. The site's been up for like a year and a half, and we're really focused on just trying to have a progressive impact on local issues, where you actually can have an impact, unlike, with a jillion people working on the Dean campaign, still feeling like pretty much we got squat for that. No, actually, Dean's getting elected to the chair of DNC. It's not squat, right? But locally, actually, one of you could actually call or email your town council member, and you would change stuff. And we have an elected official here, Sally Green, and she blogs, y'all. Blogging elected official. So some of the things that we can do on Orange Politics, I don't have a click here to email your legislator kind of thing. But we keep stories alive that the local papers either aren't reporting or don't think are important. For example, when the local NPR station dropped the underwriting funds of iPass because they used the word reproductive rights, and that was just too controversial for them. We all said, the community does not agree. The papers weren't writing about that at the time. It wasn't even in the paper. We learned about that through word of mouth, thanks to Dan Coleman, one of the writers on Orange Politics. And so, you know, we shared this information we weren't getting from the paper. We made it into a story because we were really pissed off. Eventually it was blogged about in salon.com, probably thanks to Fiona, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if it was because of you, maybe a little bit of both or something. Then the papers covered it. Then IPAS got a backbone and pulled their funding for WUNC. Other times, there's been a lot of issues. When issues are really hot in town, and a lot of times I don't agree with a lot of the participants, say on school merger, the discussion of whether to merge our county and city school systems. There are a lot of really angry, affluent suburbanites who have very strong feelings about that. I don't have the same perspective they do, but they took over the site, and they expressed their feelings that way too. What was the other example? I think better.
I've got a great one though.
Okay.
That was in the same personal, what's that thing called? Personal
Democracy Forum?
Personal Democracy Forum. Google doesn't come up on this thing, but Sam Heave, who's a Greensboro journalist, and I wrote this piece about what local community political sites have done. And in Virginia, there was a bill, a very kind of scary bill, that was before the House of Delegates, and a Northern Virginia blogger nailed it and started getting it out. And through her community, which extended beyond Virginia over time, and people picked it up nationally, there was just this firestorm against this fairly restrictive legislation that had been proposed. And the quote in the Hampton Roads paper, or the Chesapeake paper, from the poor delegate who had to withdraw his bill, it was so sad. He said, "I'd never been blogged before." So you know, so that bill, it was a bad bill, and it got yanked because of a woman in Northern Virginia who was paying attention to local issues and building a community around that issue. I got Jerry, and then I got Henry.
Yes, we were talking about building a community. You know, to have an opportunity to have the tools in your fingertips, for us, having your own newspaper, radio, and television station at your fingertips is a very powerful tool. And the community that we're building in Greensboro, North Carolina, is to get the community's voice out to make something positive, make some changes, positive things that happen, you know, within the community. And you know, it's really awesome too. You know, we love it up in Greensboro. We're really getting it out to the community.
Well, and you guys are pushing it out across the state to local NAACP chapters and local VFW chapters.
Absolutely.
And so each one can have its own.
Absolutely.
And great stuff from a woman you put online or helped get online. We have a great columnist for the News and Record who writes about slumlords and bad conditions, and she's great. She really does a fine job. But to have Luana come on and say, to have her say, "I'm living here, and this is what's going on. What's up with the bare cinder blocks and the no new appliance, and it's just wrong." That's powerful, and the more energy that you can build around that community, the more you're actually going to get stuff done. Henry Copeland wants to say something.
Henry Copeland from blogads.com. 90% of you don't care about money, so this is addressing a sub-community of this group.
Right here.
So I'll just bore most of you for a couple minutes. You know, we've built this network at this point of 500 odd bloggers, all of whom, you know, national or local advertisers can buy ads on. One of the big problems we've had is the thing has grown larger and larger, is how you navigate through all that. And I've always had the dream that someone would be able to buy every blog in Greensboro if they wanted. And so we've allowed people to classify themselves, gee, I'm a Greensboro blogger. But it seems that that is becoming cluttered. That space is, you know, people are actually starting to spam it, they're starting to game it. And we've realized, we hope that soon we'll have the capacity to let people create their own networks. And so there would be a page in which all the Greensboro bloggers, there would be one kind of blog master for that page. That person would invite people to participate, and that would allow anybody who, you know, wanted to participate, get on that page, and a Greensboro advertiser could buy. Now that becomes interesting when there are 100 Greensboro bloggers there. You know, in theory, this could be gay Greensboro bloggers. It could be gay golfing Greensboro bloggers. And it would be any group, essentially, that want to self-identify and band together and, you know, kind of wave their arms at people and say to the press, hey, you know, we're here, pay attention to us.
I mean, this is a hugely, I would even say, contentious idea in Greensboro. Who's going to have that head of the ad network? It's kind of funny to me because sometimes we fight about it and there actually isn't an ad network yet, so it's a little theoretical. But we're waiting for you to do that, Henry. We're going to hold you to it because I think 90% of this room is in the 10% who cares about money. We have 2 minutes before the tea and donut break. Those are separate activities. Who has not spoken and has something to say that has not been said?
Hi, I'm Andy Hill. I don't have a blog. I mostly just comment on blogs, but I'm actually curious about something that maybe, I don't know if it's a new idea or just totally counter to maybe the anarchic spirit of blogs. In terms of reaching into different media and into the real world and going beyond a sort of online community, have there been any attempts to somehow syndicate blog writings and distribute them through newspapers or through other media?
David Hoggard's wife, fighting breast cancer. David started blogging about it. The News and Record now runs it as a regular feature in the print edition. Yes, that's a yes. And I know we have other yeses, because I know of other yeses, but I want to get, it's the speed round.
I'm not a blogger, I'm John Cornetto. When I managed the website for KTVU and Oakland in the Bay Area, we had an earthquake, and we run a story. We'd have the first lead of the story, a line, use the message board, put the message board at the bottom. We didn't have blogs then, this was 99 maybe. But invited people to post their experiences about the earthquake. Had, the usual, my dog howled, and then there was an earthquake, but we had a person whose store, the grocery store, had been destroyed. Their shelves had dominoed. Before we knew it, we had an hour later, we had a crew down there, a TV crew down there, filming the store. More than 20 volunteers were there who had read the post about this guy's store, who were helping him clean up the store. And so
that's great stuff. MSNBC put thousands, tens of thousands of amateur videos.